Lily was a bright, cheerful 5-year-old girl with big, curious eyes and a heart full of kindness. Every morning, she sat in the back seat of her mother's car as they drove to school. She loved looking out of the window, watching people, cars, and the busy world passing by. But there was one thing she looked forward to the most: a man standing at the street corner near the traffic light. The man was tall and thin, with a long, scruffy beard and worn-out clothes. He always held a small cardboard sign, though Lily couldn't read what it said. She only knew one thing. Every time they stopped at that light, she waved at him, and every time he waved back. At first, Lily's mother, Sarah, didn't pay much attention. She was always in a hurry, rushing to drop Lily off at school, then heading to work. She barely noticed the man at the corner. But one morning, as she glanced in the rearview mirror, she saw Lily smiling and waving excitedly. The man smiled too, his tired eyes lighting up as he waved back. Sarah found it odd. "Sweetheart, why do you always wave at that man?" she asked, glancing at Lily. Lily giggled. "Because he's my friend, Mommy. He waves back every time." Sarah frowned slightly. "He's not really your friend, honey. He's just a man on the street." Lily tilted her head. "But he smiles when I wave, and I like making people smile." Sarah didn't know what to say. She had always taught Lily to be kind, but she also knew the world could be a tough place. She wasn't sure if it was safe for Lily to get attached to a stranger, especially one who seemed homeless. Days passed, and the routine continued. Every morning, Lily would wave, and the man would wave back. Sarah couldn't help but notice how much it meant to both of them. On days when it rained, the man would stand under a broken umbrella, still watching the street. And even then, he would lift his hand to wave when he saw Lily. One morning, as they approached the traffic light, Sarah saw something unexpected. The man wasn't there. The corner where he usually stood was empty. Lily's face fell. "Where's my friend, Mommy?" she asked, looking around worriedly. "I don't know, sweetheart," Sarah said, feeling an odd sense of worry of herself. For the first time in weeks, they passed through the light without stopping. Lily kept looking out the window, her small hands gripping the car seat. Sarah sighed, realizing how much this little routine meant to her daughter. The next day, as they approached the corner, Lily's face lit up. "There he is," she cheered. Sarah glanced at the man. He looked more tired than before. His shoulders slumped as if the world weighed heavily on him. But when he saw Lily waving, he stood a little straighter and lifted his hand with a soft smile. That night, as Sarah tucked Lily into bed, she thought about the man. Who was he? What was his story? And why did he seem so happy just to get a simple wave from a little girl? She didn't know it yet, but soon she would find out. And when she did, it would change everything. The next morning, Lily was more excited than ever. She couldn't wait to see her friend at the corner. As soon as Sarah stopped at the red light, Lily turned her head and smiled brightly, waving her little hand. The man saw her and waved back, just like always. But today, something was different. He wasn't just waving, he was smiling wider than before. His eyes, though tired, seemed a little brighter. Sarah sat in the driver's seat, watching the exchange from the corner of her eye. She had to admit it was strange. This wasn't just a quick wave. It felt like something more, like an unspoken connection. As the light turned green, Sarah drove forward, but Lily kept looking out the window until the man was out of sight. "Mommy, can we stop and say hi to him one day?" Lily asked, her voice full of curiosity. Sarah hesitated. "Sweetheart, he's a stranger. It's not always safe to talk to people we don't know." Lily pouted. "But he's not a bad guy. He's nice. He always waves at me." Sarah sighed. "I know, honey, but sometimes people have problems we don't understand. It's better to be careful." Lily didn't argue, but she didn't forget either. Every morning, she continued waving, and every morning, the man waved back. One day, Sarah noticed something new. As the man waved, he did something else. He touched his chest with his other hand, right over his heart, before waving back at Lily. It was a small gesture, but it meant something. Sarah couldn't stop thinking about it. That evening, as she and Lily ate dinner, she decided to ask a question. "Lily, Why do you like waving at him so much? Lily's eyes lit up. Because I think he's lonely. Sarah was surprised. Lonely? Why do you think that? Lily took a bite of her food and shrugged. I don't know. He looks sad when nobody looks at him. But when I wave, he looks happy, so I do it every day. Sarah's heart tightened. She hadn't thought of it that way. To her, the man was just someone standing on the street, someone she barely noticed. But to Lily, he was a person who needed kindness. The next morning, Sarah paid closer attention. When they stopped at the red light, she took a good look at the man. His clothes were old, his shoes worn out, and his beard untrimmed. But despite all of that, when he saw Lily, he smiled. And again, he placed his hand over his heart before waving. Sarah felt something stir inside her. This wasn't just a routine anymore. This was something real. As they drove away, Lily turned to her. Mommy, do you think he has a family? Sarah didn't know how to answer. She glanced at her daughter's innocent face and then back at the road. I don't know, sweetheart, she admitted. Maybe he did once. Lily was quiet for a moment. Then she said softly, I think he needs a friend. Sarah gripped the steering wheel a little tighter. For the first time, she wondered about the man's story. Who was he? What had happened to him? And why did a simple wave from a little girl mean so much to him? She didn't have the answers yet, but something told her she was about to find out. One chilly morning, Sarah pulled the car up to the red light as usual. Lily was already looking out the window, waiting to see her friend. The moment she spotted him, she grinned and waved with both hands. The man, as always, waved back. But today, he looked even more tired than before. His face seemed pale, and he was shivering slightly in the cold air. His thin jacket did little to protect him from the wind. Sarah noticed it too. She frowned, gripping the steering wheel. It's really cold today, she murmured to herself. Lily didn't seem to hear her. She was too busy smiling at the man. But something happened that Sarah didn't expect. As the light was about to turn green, the man did something different. Instead of just waving, he lifted his hand slightly and mouthed two words. Thank you. Sarah saw it clearly. She blinked in surprise. Thank you. Lily hadn't done anything except wave, and yet the man seemed truly grateful. As the car moved forward, Sarah kept glancing at her rearview mirror. The man was still standing there, watching them go, his tired face holding the faintest hint of warmth. That night, Sarah lay in bed, thinking about him. Who was he? What had happened to him? Why did a simple wave from a 5-year-old child mean so much to him? The next morning, Sarah made a small decision. As they were about to leave for school, she grabbed a spare scarf from the closet. It was a warm woolen scarf that her husband had left behind before their divorce. She had no use for it anymore. Maybe someone else did. When they reached the red light, Sarah rolled down the window slightly. The cold morning air rushed in. Lily, she said, handing her the scarf. Give this to your friend. Lily's eyes widened with excitement. Really, Mommy? Sarah nodded. Tell him to stay warm. Lily's little hands reached out eagerly. As soon as she saw the man, she leaned out of the window and held the scarf toward him. Here, for you, she said cheerfully. The man looked surprised. He hesitated for a second, then slowly stepped forward. His rough hands gently took the scarf from Lily. He looked at it for a moment, then at her. His eyes glistened. For a second, it seemed like he might say something. But instead, he simply placed his hand over his heart again, just like always. Lily beamed. It's really warm. Mommy said so. The man smiled, a real, deep smile. Thank you, he whispered. The light turned green. Sarah had to move forward. But as they drove away, she saw him wrapping the scarf around his neck, holding it close as if it were the most precious thing in the world. Lily giggled happily. He liked it, Mommy. Sarah smiled softly. Yes, sweetheart, I think he did. But deep down, something was changing inside her. This wasn't just a passing moment anymore. It wasn't just a little girl waving at a stranger. It was something more, and Sarah knew she couldn't ignore it any longer. The next morning, Sarah was eager to see if the man was wearing the scarf. As she stopped at the red light, she glanced toward the street corner. There he was. The scarf was wrapped snugly around his neck, and he held it gently, as if it were a treasure. His face still looked tired, but there was something different about him, something lighter. Lily squealed with delight. "Mommy, look, he's wearing it." Sarah smiled. "I see that, sweetheart." Lily waved excitedly, and as always, the man waved back. But today, he did something else too. He pointed at the scarf and then at his heart. Sarah understood. He was thanking them again. As they drove away, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling growing inside her. She wanted to know more about this man. His tired eyes, his soft smiles, the way he always placed his hand on his chest. It all meant something. That afternoon, after dropping Lily off at school, Sarah made a decision. Instead of heading straight to work, she turned her car around and drove back to the street corner. The man was still there. For the first time, Sarah parked the car nearby, took a deep breath, and stepped out. As she walked toward him, he noticed her and straightened up slightly. He looked surprised, as if no one had ever approached him before. "Hi," Sarah said, offering a small smile. The man hesitated, then nodded politely. "Hello." His voice was rough but kind. Sarah cleared her throat. "I just wanted to check. Is the scarf warm enough?" The man's eyes softened. He touched the scarf again and nodded. "Yes, it's the warmest thing I've had in a long time." Sarah hesitated, unsure of what to say next. Finally, she asked, "What's your name?" The man looked down for a moment, as if he hadn't been asked that question in a long time. Then he answered, "Tom." Sarah smiled. "It's nice to meet you, Tom. I'm Sarah." Tom nodded. "I know. Your little girl says your name sometimes. She talks a lot." He chuckled softly. Sarah laughed. "Yes, she does. She's been waving at you for weeks now." Tom's face grew serious. He looked down at the ground, then back at Sarah. "I know, and it means more to me than you can imagine." Sarah felt a lump in her throat. She took a deep breath. "Tom, how did you end up here?" Tom hesitated, then sighed. He looked past Sarah, as if remembering something painful. "A long time ago," he said quietly, "I had a family, a wife, a daughter." He paused, his voice thick with emotion. "But I lost them. My little girl. She would have been around your daughter's age now." Sarah's heart clenched. She didn't know what had happened, but she could hear the pain in his voice. Tom swallowed hard. "After they were gone, I lost everything. My home, my job, my will to keep going. I've been on the streets for a while now." Sarah felt tears prick her eyes. No wonder he always waved back at Lily. No wonder he placed his hand over his heart. She wasn't just a little girl waving at a stranger. She was reminding him of someone he had lost. "I'm so sorry, Tom," Sarah said softly. Tom nodded but didn't speak. He simply looked down, gripping the scarf as if it was the only thing keeping him warm, not just from the cold, but from his loneliness. Sarah knew in that moment that she couldn't just walk away. She had to do something, and she would. That night, Sarah couldn't stop thinking about Tom. His words, his tired eyes, and the way he held the scarf as if it were the most precious thing in the world. Everything stayed in her mind. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. A man who had lost everything. A father who once had a daughter. And all it took was a little girl's wave to bring light back into his world. Sarah knew she had to do something more. The next morning, before leaving the house, she packed an extra bag. Inside, she placed a warm jacket, a pair of gloves, and a sandwich she had made earlier. As they stopped at the red light, Lily waved eagerly, and Tom waved back. But this time Sarah did something new. She rolled down her window and called out, "Tom." Tom looked surprised but stepped closer. Sarah handed him the bag. "It's not much, but I thought you might need these." Tom hesitated for a moment before taking the bag. He peeked inside, and when he saw the warm clothes and food, his eyes filled with emotion. "Thank you," he said, his voice almost breaking. "You don't know what this means to me." Lily clapped her hands. "Nettie won't be cold anymore." Tom chuckled softly, nodding. "That's right, little one." The light turned green, and Sarah had to move. As they drove away, she glanced in the rearview mirror and saw Tom standing there, still holding the bag close to his chest. Lily turned to her mom. "Mommy, are we going to help him more?" Sarah smiled softly. "Yes, sweetheart, we are." The next step. Over the next few days, Sarah kept bringing small things for Tom: extra food, a blanket, and even a thermos with hot tea. Each time, Tom looked more grateful, more alive. One day, after dropping Lily at school, Sarah parked near Tom's usual spot and stepped out to talk to him. "Tom," she said gently, "have you ever thought about going to a shelter? Maybe getting some help?" Tom sighed, rubbing his hands together. "I have, but shelters are crowded, and sometimes they don't have space." Sarah nodded. She had heard about that before, but she wasn't going to give up. "Would you let me help you find a better place?" she asked carefully. "A place where you can get warm meals, a bed to sleep in, and maybe even a fresh start." Tom looked at her, his eyes full of doubt and hope at the same time. "Why are you doing this for me, Sarah?" Sarah took a deep breath. "Because you matter, Tom. Because no one should have to live like this. And because you're important to my daughter. She thinks of you as her friend." Tom swallowed hard and looked away, blinking quickly. After a long pause, he nodded. "Okay," he whispered. Sarah smiled. "Okay." That day, she made some calls. She searched for programs that could help. And little by little, she began changing not just Tom's life, but her own. She had started with a wave. Now she was offering him hope. The next morning, as Sarah and Lily drove to school, something felt different. Sarah wasn't just stopping at the red light anymore. She was about to change a life. Lily, as usual, looked out the window, waiting to see Tom. When she spotted him, she clapped her hands. "Mommy, there he is?" Sarah smiled. "Yes, sweetheart." She rolled down the window. "Tom," she called. Tom turned and stepped closer. He was still wearing the scarf Sarah had given him, along with the warm jacket she had brought a few days ago. "Good morning," he said with a small smile. Sarah hesitated, then said, "I found a shelter that has space for you. It's a good place, Tom. They can help you." Tom's smile faded slightly. He looked down, rubbing his hands together. Lily leaned forward eagerly. "You can go there, Tom. They'll give you food and a bed. You won't be cold anymore." Tom chuckled softly at her excitement, but didn't answer right away. Sarah could see the hesitation in his eyes. He had been on the streets for so long. Maybe he was afraid to hope. "Tom," she said gently, "I'll take you there myself. You don't have to do this alone." Tom looked at her, then at Lily, who was smiling up at him with innocent hope. Finally, he nodded. "Okay." Sarah let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "Okay," she repeated, smiling. "The ride to change." Later that day, after dropping Lily at school, Sarah returned to pick up Tom. As he got into the car, he looked around, almost as if he had forgotten what it felt like to sit in a warm place. "Are you sure about this?" he asked quietly. Sarah nodded. "Yes, it's time for a fresh start." Tom gave a small, grateful nod. During the drive, he was quiet at first. Then, after a long pause, he spoke. "I wasn't always like this, you know." Sarah glanced at him. "I know, Tom." He sighed. "I had a home, a family. I had a little girl, just like Lily." His voice wavered slightly. "She used to wave at me every morning before school." Sarah's heart clenched. "She got sick," Tom continued, staring out the window. "And I couldn't save her. After that, I lost everything. I didn't care about anything anymore." Sarah swallowed the lump in her throat. "I'm so sorry, Tom." Tom nodded. "When Lily waved at me that first time, it reminded me of her. That's why I waved back. It made me feel seen again." Sarah reached over and gave his hand a gentle squeeze. "You are seen, Tom. You matter." Tom looked at her, his eyes filled with emotion. Then he gave a small smile. For the first time in a long time, he felt like someone cared. And for the first time in a long time, he had hope. When Sarah and Tom arrived at the shelter, Sarah could see that he was nervous. His shoulders were tense, and he kept looking around, unsure of what to expect. "It's okay, Tom," Sarah said gently, noticing his unease. "This place is safe. They'll help you." Tom nodded, but he still didn't seem fully convinced. He had been on the streets for so long, and trusting others again was hard. As they walked through the shelter's door, A warm wave of air greeted them. Inside, there were people talking quietly, some reading, others sitting together, and a few in line for the meals. It felt calm, peaceful, nothing like the busy, noisy streets Tom had become used to. A friendly woman behind the front desk looked up and smiled. "Hi there, how can I help you today?" "This is Tom," Sarah said, her voice full of warmth. "He's looking for a place to stay." The woman's smile widened. "Welcome, Tom. We have a bed ready for you. I'll get you settled in." Tom hesitated for a moment, glancing at Sarah, as if unsure of how to proceed. "You're going to be okay," Sarah said softly, her hand resting on his arm. "They're kind here. You'll be safe." Tom nodded, and with one last look at Sarah, he followed the woman to the back of the shelter. A quiet moment. Sarah stood in the lobby for a moment, taking in the peaceful atmosphere. It was hard to believe how much had changed in just a few days. Not long ago, she had only known Tom as the man who waved at her daughter every morning. Now he was getting help. A new beginning was waiting for him. As she sat on a nearby chair, she thought about everything that had led her to this moment. It all started with a small wave from Lily, a simple, kind gesture that opened her eyes to the pain someone else was going through. Sarah pulled out her phone and texted her daughter. "Lily, we helped Tom today. He's at a shelter now, and he's going to be okay." A few seconds later, a reply came. "I'm so happy. I knew he needed help." Sarah smiled as she read her daughter's message. Lily might be young, but her heart was full of love and kindness. She understood things in a way that many adults didn't. The first step. Later that afternoon, Tom returned to the lobby. He was carrying a clean set of clothes and a small bag, his face looking a little less tense than before. "Hi, Tom," Sarah said, standing up. He smiled. It was a small smile, but it was a real one. "Thank you, Sarah. I don't know what to say. This place, it's better than I expected." Sarah's heart swelled. "I'm so glad you're here, Tom. You deserve to have a chance at something better." Tom looked down at the bag in his hands. "I never thought I'd be here. I never thought I could start over." Sarah put a hand on his shoulder. "Everyone deserves a second chance, Tom, and you're not alone in this." Tom's eyes glistened with emotion, and he nodded. "I'm going to do my best," he said, his voice steady, "for myself and for my daughter." Sarah smiled softly. "You're already doing it, Tom. You've taken the first step." A little hope. As Sarah left the shelter that afternoon, she felt a sense of peace settle over her. She had helped Tom take the first step toward rebuilding his life. But there was something else that stayed with her, something even more important. It wasn't just about finding Tom a place to stay or giving him a warm meal. It was about reminding him that he was still worth something, that he still mattered. It was a lesson she had learned from Lily. Sometimes all it took was a little wave, a small act of kindness, to make someone feel seen again. And now Sarah knew that even the smallest act could change a life. Weeks passed, and every time Sarah drove past the shelter, she would look out for Tom. She hadn't seen him much after that first day, but she knew he was settling in. The small steps he was taking to rebuild his life were worth more than she could put into words. One sunny morning, as Sarah and Lily made their way to school, they stopped at the familiar red light. Sarah glanced around as usual, but this time, something was different. There, standing at the corner, was Tom. He was holding a cardboard sign, but it wasn't the same sign he had been holding before. This one read, "Thank you for showing me hope. I'm getting back on my feet." Lily gasped in excitement. "Mommy, it's Tom. He's here." Sarah's heart skipped a beat. She parked the car and turned to Lily. "Stay here for a minute, okay? I'll be right back." Lily nodded eagerly, her eyes wide with curiosity. Sarah got out of the car and walked over to Tom. He saw her coming and gave her a gentle wave, a smile lighting up his face. It wasn't the same tired, unsure smile from before. This one was full of pride and hope. "Tom," Sarah said, her voice full of warmth, "I didn't expect to see you here." Tom chuckled softly. "I'm sorry for the surprise, but I've been doing a little better." Sarah's eyes widened. "Better?" "Yes," Tom nodded. "I've been staying at the shelter. They've been helping me find a job. I got a small one at a local shop. It's not much, but it's a start, and I'm clean now." No more living on the streets. Tears welled up in Sarah's eyes as she smiled. That's incredible, Tom. I'm so proud of you. Tom smiled back, his eyes gleaming with gratitude. I'm proud of me too. But it's not just me, it's you. And Lily, you too showed me that there's more to life than just surviving. You reminded me what it feels like to be seen, to have hope again. Sarah felt a lump in her throat. You did all the hard work, Tom. You're the one who made the choice to change. Tom shook his head. I didn't have the strength before, but you gave it to me. You showed me that even when things are tough, kindness and love can make a difference. Sarah placed a hand on his shoulder. You're the one who found it inside yourself, Tom. I just helped open the door. At that moment, Lily popped her head out of the car window, her eyes bright with excitement. Tom, you're all better now, right? Tom turned to her, his eyes softening. I'm getting there, little one. Thanks to you. Lily beamed, her face lighting up. I'm so happy. I knew you could do it. Tom knelt down so he was at her level, his voice gentle. I couldn't have done it without you. You made me feel like I wasn't invisible anymore. Lily giggled and ran over to him. I knew you just needed a little help. Now you'll be okay. Tom laughed and ruffled her hair. I think you're right. I will be okay. The ripple effect. Over the next few months, Tom's life continued to improve. With the help of the shelter, he found a small apartment and started working more hours at the shop. He no longer stood on the street corner, holding a sign. Instead, he became a regular in the community. Sarah and Lily kept in touch with him, offering their friendship and support. They would sometimes visit him at the shop, where he always greeted them with a big smile. He had even saved enough money to buy a small gift for Lily, a beautiful necklace with a heart pendant, something he had never thought he'd be able to afford. But the biggest change was in Tom himself. He wasn't just surviving anymore. He was living again. He was thriving. Sarah could see the transformation in him every time she saw him. His face was brighter, his steps more confident. He was no longer a man broken by his past, but someone who had rebuilt himself, piece by piece. And it all started with a small, simple wave. A full circle. One afternoon, as Sarah and Lily were on their way home from the store, they stopped at the red light again. Lily turned to her mom with a smile. I wonder if Tom is okay today. Sarah smiled, glancing over at the corner, but this time she didn't see Tom with a sign. Instead, she saw him walking down the sidewalk, carrying a bag of groceries, smiling as he passed by. He waved at them, just like he always had. But now his wave was different. It wasn't the desperate wave of someone asking for help. It was the wave of someone who had found his way again. Sarah waved back, her heart full. She knew that, no matter what happened, this was a story she would never forget. And she would always remember how one small act of kindness had changed a man's life, and hers too.